Okie dokie, let me see. Okay, I'll start right here. We have not merely capitalized certain industries, industries, yeah. We have capitalized the labor and inventors and undertaken to employ all the labor saving devices that come out of them. But a fresh labor saving device introduced into the industry does not inip- emanulate, ema- emancipate the laborers in that industry so much that it evicts them. Applied at the expense of agriculture, for example, the new process has reduced the part of the production of the population supporting itself upon the soil to a smaller and smaller fraction. Of course, no single labor saving process is fatal. It brings on a period of unemployed labor and unemployed capital, but soon a new industry is devised which will put them both back to work again, and the new commodity is thrown upon the market. The laborers were sufficiently em- embarrassed in the meantime, but according to the theory, they were eventually they will eventually be taken care of. It is now the with public which is embarrassed. It feels obligated to purchase that commodity for which it had expressed no desire, but it is invented to make its budget equal to the strain. Okay, that's still reading this and it's a little bit over my head. I'm really not paying attention to it, I guess. Uh, okay. Will all might yet be well, and sustainably, and comfort might again obtain, but for this, partly because of industrial ambitions, and partly because the repre- repressed creative impulse must break out somewhere. There will be a stream of further labor saving devices in all industries, and the cycle will have to be repeated over and over again. The result is the increasing disadjustment and instability. Okay, so basically, I guess in a nutshell, that's saying everything's going to come back again to the well, basically the Green New Deal is basically what it is anyway, because everybody's trying to push back to the beginning of everything then instead of go forward. I don't know. I'm just probably just babbling. Okay, got a squiggly line. Okay, and then it says it is an inevitable consequences of industrial progress that production greatly returns to the rate of natural consumption. Okay, to overcome this partly the producers, disguised as the pure idealists of progress, must coere and whittle the public into being long and steady consumers in order to keep the machines running. So, the rise of modern advertising, along with its twin, personal salesmanship, is the most sufficient development of our industrialism. Advertising means to persuade the consumer to want exactly what the implied science are able to furnish to them. It consults the happiness of the consumer no more than it consults the happiness of the labor. It is the great effort of the false economy of life to prove itself. But its task grows more difficult every day. Then we got a squiggly line again. So that was one thought. Here's another thought. It is strange, of course, that the majority of men anywhere could ever, as with one mind, become enamored of industrialism, a system that has so little regard for individual wants. There is eventually a kind of thinking that rejoices in setting up a social objective which has no relation to the individual. Men are prepared to sacrifice their private dignity and happiness to an abstract social idea, and without asking whether the social ideal products the welfare of any individual man whatsoever. But this is absurd. The responsibility of men is of their own welfare and that of their neighbors, not of the hypothetical welfare of some fabulous created creature called society. Okay. Squiggly line. Opposed to the industrial society is the agrarian, which does not stand in particular needs of definition. An agrarian society is hardly one that has no use of all industries for professional vocation, for scholar and artist, and for the life of cities. Technologically, perhaps, the agrarian society is one in which agriculture is the leading vocation, whether for wealth, for pleasure, or for prestige, a form of labor that is persuaded with intelligence and leisure, and that becomes the model to which the other forms approach as well as they may. Yeah, well, we live in this area is all agriculture. Okay, let me get back to this. But an agrarian regime, will be secured readily enough where the superfluous industries are not allowed to rise against it. The theory of agrarianism is that the culture of the soil is best and most sensitive of vocations, and that therefore it should have the economic preference and enlist the maximum number of workers. Yeah, pretty much. Okay, squiggly line. These principles do not intend to be very specific in proposing any practical measures. How may the little agrarian community resists the Chamber of Commerce of its country seat, which is always trying to import some foreign industry that cannot be assimilated to the life pattern of the community. Just what must the Southern leaders do to defend the traditional Southern life? How may the Southern and the Western agrarians unite for effective action? Should the agrarian forces try to capture the Democratic Party, which historically is so closely affiliated with the defense of individualism? The community, the small community, the state, the South. That's funny the way it stated that. Individualism, not anymore. The Democrats are not anymore. Oh, see, I listen too much to the news. Okay. Or must the agrarians, even the Southern ones, abandon the Democratic Party to its fate and try a new one? What legislation could most profitably be championed by the powerful agrarians in the Senate of the United States? What anti-industrial measures might promise to stop the advance of industrialism or even undo some of them, with the least harm to those considered? What policies should be persuaded by the educators who have a tradition in heart? These and many other questions are the greatest importance, but they cannot be answered here. For in conclusion, that much is clear. If the community or the section or a race or an age is groaning under industrialism and will and well aware that it is an evil dispensation, it must find a way to throw it off. To think that it cannot be done is pusillanimous. That's a funny word. And if the whole community, section, race, and age thinks it cannot be done, then it has simply lost its political genius and doomed itself to impotence. I will take a stand. That's what it says. And that was the introduction. That's a big introduction. Okay, now and that's to page 20. Wow. XX is 20. Should know my Roman numbers. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to start with this next story by it's called Reconstructed. I remember I hated that when I had to learn that in US history about the Reconstruction. Oh, I'm so mad about it. But of course, I probably was mad about it because all the family stories. Okay, you are listening to Loretta's Nash's show, and I'll be back in a bit.